look at this question. If Q is false and P and Q if and only if R is true, which of these is a tautology? So, in this 4 you have to find which of them is true always. Okay, now we will first analyze this. So, already Q is false is given to us. So, now we will analyze this. Now, this is a if and only if statement. So, when is if and only if true? Now, if you look at the table, I have just given it here, if and only if true in 2 cases, either both should be true or both should be false. So, there are multiple cases for this. So, either this should be true and this should be true. So, true if and only if true will be true, or another case is this should be false, this should be false. False if and only if false is also true. Yeah. Now, we can see that this case cannot happen because okay, now if you take P and Q is true, suppose you take this case, then what happens is this is not possible because Q is already given as false. So, this Q is already given as false. So, and if and is false in any case, see, if and is false, see, then the answer will be false. So, when and is false, if any of the component is false, the answer cannot be true. So, true and false is also false, false and false is also false. So, true will not come at all, therefore, this case is out. So, this case is out. Okay. Now, next we will, so therefore, this case does not exist. Now, we will go to this case P and Q, can it be false? Yes, it can be, because now Q is given as false. So, now this is P and Q is given as false is false, but you have to be very careful here. For P, then there will be 2 cases, because P can be true also, P can be false also, because if P is true, true and false is false, and if P is false, false and false also will be false. Therefore, P can have 2 cases here. So, therefore, P can be true, P can be false. So, true and false is also false, false and false is also false. Therefore, we will get 2 cases for P. And if you compare the value of R, then R is false here. So, the value of R will come out as false. Yes. So, this case is out. So, P and Q is false, that case, in that case R is false. So, we have this. So, now P has 2 values, R is F, Q is false. Now, taking this, we will see which option gives us the tautology. Now, let us go to option A. So, option A. Yeah. Now, when you go to P, what you have to do is you have to substitute first P as true and P as false. Both have to be done, because P can have 2 cases. So, option A, when we take P as true, so this is true or R, R is false, then P, that is true, and R false. So, we get true or false is true, then true and false is false. So, I will get true then false, true then false is false. Okay. So, first one cannot be answer, they are asking a tautology, therefore, A is coming false, therefore, A cannot be the answer. Now, we will go to option B. Now, we will go to option B, P. First, we will take P as true. So, true and R, R is false, then again P, that is true, or R, R is false. So, this is true and false. So, that is true, yeah, then true or false, that is true. So, true then true comes out to be true. Yes. Now, do not tick B as the answer, because they have asked tautology, but you have to check for P as false also, you have to check that option also. Now in the second option, because P can have both values, always remember that. So P is false and if R is false, then P is false or R is false. So this will give me false and false is false, then false or false is false. So you will get false then false, this is true. So we can see that option B is the answer. So for both the values we are going to get T as the answer. Okay, we can still, just to have a practice, we can go for option C. Therefore no doubt option B is the answer. So now we will go to option C, P and R. So if you go for P as true, first case, and R as false, so true and false will give you false. Therefore surely option C cannot be answer. If you go for P or R, suppose you go to option D, first take the value of P as true, or value of R is false. So true or false, see this case it is coming true, but what you have to do is you have to go for other value of P, that is false also. Now if you take P as false or R is always false, so false or false becomes false. So in one case it will come T, second case it will come false. Therefore option D cannot be the answer. So option B comes true in both cases, and therefore B is the correct option for tautology.